Hi, everybody. So today I am going to go ahead and channel for you a live message from Spirit. I can tell you, of course, it's interesting because it was just Christmas. So I've had a lot of communication with Jesus in particular over the course of this past year. And he was maybe this seems obvious, but he did show up for me personally Christmas Day. Um, and so even all day today, as I've been really tuned in and restful and kind of regrounding after lots of festivities and family gatherings and travel and all that kind of stuff. Um, I've been in a lot of communication with Spirit all day, and they have been quite chatty with me. And also, Jesus has kind of like been hanging out around in the background. So we'll see if he doesn't pop in more fully. Right now though, just gonna take a deep breath and one of the things they've been saying to me all day to talk about is that there's been I had been saying, I want to say maybe like it was new moon energy or something at the beginning of the month, but I know when I was talking earlier at the beginning of the month, I had brought up around that I was getting really strongly and being told to promote this energy, the energy of reclamation or reclaiming. And so it's been interesting because as the week has gone by, like just this week, they were reminding me that the energy and where they really want us to put focus is on restoring. And so part of that comes into play when we are doing you know a, a reflection for ourselves over it's the end of the year, right? So there might be a lot of reflection going, and I actually they've given me a few short videos and exercises that I'm going to share for everyone. Make sure that you are on my email list if you want to make sure you get them directly. But they were reminding me personally of my own personal journey and how, in all these different professional capacities, I have loved and been a part of restoration. And so, if you follow me, if you know anything about me, largely a lot of that has to do from a construction background. Or then I went into the emergency restoration side of it, which still had a construction element, of course, but it was less about reinvestment and restoring abandoned buildings, which I had done for a large period and had been a part of white elephant projects and all those kinds of things. But anyway, they were reminding me about my own personal history of restoration and how I had been overlooking the fact that restoration is a piece and must come before the reclamation. And so they were saying about sharing today this idea and this message around restoring yourself. They're saying to me right now, they're saying that means physically in your energy. It means restoring your spirit, which also, again, there's a natural progression here in the northern hemispheres where many of you probably are, even though I know I have lots of my Australian southern buddies. It's winter time here, so we're going into this space of moving into reclamation and I mean, not reclamation, reflection. And so there's a natural kind of restoring of our energy if we allow these darker, colder months to be that for us, right? Our days are shorter. Depending on where you are in the world, this is a much colder time of period. So you're not outside, you're not as active. There's a lot more kind of snuggling and cuddling and cozying up and staying at home with tea and books and whatever it is that you do, right? But you're not out and about as much. So there's this natural process of retreating into ourselves, and it can be really restorative. And so they just really want to lay into that, but they're saying you can't reclaim anything until you've restored your physical energy, meaning feeling healthy, feeling rested, feeling full of vitality, whatever that might look like for you. They're saying there's lot of people that may watch this that they feel like would benefit from spending at least the first 3 months of the year, they're saying to me, this new year coming, using those 3 months as a time to really focus on what do you need to restore and where does it need to be restored prior to reclaiming parts of you that you have abandoned or forgotten or disconnected from, they're saying, at any point in stage in your life. There, of course, and we'll go through this in the next few months, but I'll keep bringing out pieces and revealing that and offering as much as I can in videos for exercises and whatnot. But they're saying allow yourself to be restored physically first and foremost, because many people are physically exhausted and burnt out, and this is a really key energy that you can't restore your spirit, you can't restore your mind, you can't restore your joy until you are rested and taking care of your body and of yourself. So they want us to be focusing on physical health from the standpoint of not saying that maybe you're unhealthy, and that does not mean lose weight, even though I know that's a super common goal, or what do they call them? Look, I don't even know because I haven't done them in forever. Resolution. That's a really common resolution for people, but it's not about losing weight. It's about wanting to focus on making yourself feel more vital. It's the vitality and the energy. It's the restoring of a strong body that you feel good about, that has the energy to do things and partake in things. They're saying again, this restoration from a physical standpoint has to be like the fundamental element. And so, because they're saying, because when we restore our body and it's restored with a sense of vitality, then it makes it easier to restore our spirit and our mind. But again, they're saying first 3 months, January, February, March, they want collectively, as many as receive this message, to be in this space of um restoring and focusing on restoring rather than creating or reclaiming anything. um so this is a great time for retreats. This is a great time for that retreat to be for you. We talk about how self-care is so important, and it's not just going and getting a pedicure and a massage, right? And that's true, and yet they're saying, like, indulge in the hot, steamy, aromatic Epsom salt baths, right? They're saying, allow, 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 allow you to indulge in yourself physically. Because more than anything, they're saying, more than any of all the things, what they're saying is that most of you watching that will get this message, that can get this message, are in desperate need of recharging your energy, your physical energy. And so that comes from this resting and really, like, just indulging rest in things that are restful and restorative. I know I'm repeating this a lot, but they're repeating it a lot. So you're just getting it the way that I'm getting it. There's things that they are asking me to do that, like I said, I will be putting out there here in the next week or two to help to offer and so they're telling me to tell you about this if you're watching it. And they're asking me to take a role in helping to facilitate restoration of spirit, and also to be able to dole out guidance on how and where physically you might need the restoration. And so I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like. And they're not telling me now, they're just saying about bringing it up. So Jesus does step in. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I hesitated to actually just say this right now, but that would be terrible because you shouldn't deny the big J. Not that he cares. I mean, he does, but he doesn't judge us, and that's really actually what his message is. He doesn't judge us or hold it against us. There's not a harsh criticism. He's not disappointed in us when we don't honor him, when we don't listen to him, when we don't take his guidance. For those that experience or have a relationship in a way in which you feel like you get direct guidance from him. And that can be biblically, that can be, in a religious context, or it can be like me, that has just where you've established your own relationship with him as a guy, not as a religious figurehead. And my relationship with him is really precious and special, and it's also taken me a lot of work to get there. Being brought up Catholic, that wasn't a big the relationship to Jesus was, I mean, I had my own sense of rebellion about it. It made me really uncomfortable. It didn't feel loving the way that it was brought to me, the way that it was put to me, the way that it was established, or presented to me, I guess I should say. And so that's been a really long journey. And so it's interesting because he's saying to me right now, like, so that is something that you may look to restore, is after your physicalness, after your physical restoration. Jesus is saying, then restore your spirit, restore that spiritual connection, relationship with whatever divine creator source you believe in. Again, I want to be really clear that to me, my relationship with Jesus and what he shares with me and how he comes to me is not based on him being a religious figurehead. And it's instead, it's a, you know, divine entity, energy, deity, whatever the words are that you feel comfortable with, um, that was deeply impactful and significant in the Earth's history, in humanity's history, right? Is there anybody, no matter what religion people are, they've heard of Jesus Christ. They know who he is. They understand that um he existed and that he taught and he, maybe some people would even use the phrase evangelized or whatever. So what's interesting is what he brought to me on Christmas, actually Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day. Um because I know exactly where I was and in the moment, and it moved me to tears, and he's reminding me now. He always gives me chills when he's with me, and I didn't always have that experience, so I'm I I mean, he expands my heart with love in a way that certainly isn't human. And it's interesting because like I said, he wants me to talk about this. My relationship with him was not anything like it is now. I mean, I was uncomfortable. I didn't care about, like, I believed that he existed and everything, but it was a real turn off to me when people brought it up. I I had no relationship with him directly. I really didn't, to be very honest. So, I come to you today from a very different place, a place where we do have an intimate relationship, and he is with me, whether you believe that or not, whether you believe that is sacrilegious of me to even say, I don't know. I'm sure there's people that think that that's crazy or it's evil or I'm wrong, and I'm being possessed by evil spirits or whatever. So, um, please don't come back. Then I am not for you, and that's fine. But there are plenty of you that do know and understand and believe that these higher energies, these people that existed in real form, also exist in a type of personification so that we can identify and connect to their teachings and their energies, even on the other side, even when they are not physically in form, in presence anymore in this 3D reality. Not that they're not here energetically, not that they're not here in all capacity and with all of us and available to all of us, right? But that is my experience. And so I say that to you to say, the message he brought to me on Christmas Eve was that there are many people in traditional Christian belief systems that say that he died for our sins and he came here so that we could be forgiven of all sins. And when he said to me Christmas Eve night that he wanted me to share at some point, which apparently is today, um, and I'm sure it won't be the last time because I have a feeling we're going to be repeating this message in a lot of ways for a lot of time to come. But he says the only sin that he came to eradicate from our lives to show us a different way was not the sins of forefathers, that the sins that others had deemed as sinful and their interpretation of those things. He says the only sins are the sins of our spirit, the sins of things that we actually do to ourselves that create separation from our connection and relationship to both him and greater energies, or though he is same to me. um other types of that greater energy, and also that creates separation in our own personal divinity. He says those sins of spirit, the sins that he really meant for us to talk about, to be free of, to offer ourselves forgiveness from, are things that are a lot more mundane. He's saying to me now, it's less about not acting loving and compassionate towards others. It's about acting loving and compassionate to ourselves. When he uses the term, and when he did use the term sin, he meant separation. And so he says all things stem back to, if we can be loving and compassionate and forgiving with ourselves, then we will be more fully in connection to him, to source, to creator, God, whatever you want to call it, and our true self, our authentic divine being. And through that, naturally, you will only be good to the world and all energies, entities, beings, with not just people, but earth, animals, all the things around you that you experience. We know this. Hurt people hurt people. He is saying that's separation. And so when you connect more fully to yourself, to being loving to yourself, it's the same thing as being more connected and loving and in connection with him, because we are him and he is us. See, there is no separation. There is none. And as a byproduct of that, then we all become more loving, more compassionate, more giving, more of service to all around us. But it has to start with you. It has to start with you being loving. That's what sin was. That's what he came here to save us from. He came here to save us from false ideas, false truths, and separation from that which is ultimately true and is our ultimate divine connection, our ultimate divine beingness. He's saying the same way, he's just saying, just like Spirit said, start with the restoration of your physical body, and then start with the restoration of the love and the compassion and the forgiveness of yourself. Of yourself. I was just about to say the words, focus. It's like this internal healing of ourselves that then heals the world, heals all of our relationships, all the areas of our lives, right? And he reminded me, but I know this, that there really is no need to heal anything. But I use that as a term because that's how people understand the results of that separation. When we have experienced separation from our divine self and full embodiment and connection to divine spirit, divine greater energy, source, creator, God, whatever you want to call it, then we experience things that we call wounds and illness and dis-ease, and physically and of the spirit. And those are results really of separation, of not being able to see ourselves as the whole beautiful, perfect, loving, everything you could ever dream of self. So that feels like plenty enough for today. I hope that this finds you if you needed to hear this. I encourage all of you, stick with the restoration. Don't forget to like, comment, share this video with anyone that you think will need it. Subscribe if you want to make sure you're not missing any videos, especially because in the upcoming months, probably year, there's going to be even more videos. There's going to be a whole new series. And also, there's going to be a ton of exercises that I'm going to be putting out there for you to work on being able to move into the new year, starting with restoration, working into reclamation. So that is my message for you all today. Thank you so much for joining me. And comment, let me know what you might want to hear, what other little videos, any questions. I love my mediumship minutes. So don't forget, you can always send me questions that you want to know about that, or comment below on this video or any videos. I do see them. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great week.